and welcome to another episode of the Community Office Hours here at Moderne, where we take you through all that is new this week in OpenRewrite and Moderne. I'm your host, Tim DeWake, as always. My colleague Sam, he's not here, he's visiting a customer, so you're stuck with me for this episode here. But we have a lot of cool new things to cover, and I'll take you first through a couple of things that are new this week. And then we'll dive deeper into something that I'm very enthusiastic about, which is automating our code reviews, which we've built here at OpenRewrite Moderne. But first up, I'll take you through a new blog where we can finally show off the very cool dev center that we've been collaboratively working on here at Moderne, where we make it possible to view a wide state of your software across the organization. And you can read about it on the blog. I've just shared the link as well. And just from the screenshots already, you can see that you're able to gauge where you stand in your migration efforts and have a button that helps you migrate. And I'll show two examples quite quickly. But this is really our way of showing you exactly where you stand and have that be actionable. We're not going to give you a report on how you're doing. We actually want to give you the tools and the insights that you need to help get things moving. And that's really what this Dev Center is all about. And you can see that we have various ways in which we can help inform you. One is just the numbers at the top of the page. But really, it's about the actions you can take using this dashboard. Previously, we've already shown you the activity view, where you can see exactly what your colleagues have been up to recently, both in terms of recipe runs, but also commits and maybe even visualizations. But with this dashboard, it all comes together, and you're able to share the progress towards the goals that you're tracking. We'll also be expanding this for the time to come with some recommended recipes based on a sampling of your code, where we take some of those 2,300 recipes that we currently have and just recommend a few next recipes for you to run to actually get things moving in that sense as well. And as you probably, we also have a tab near the bottom for any security remediations that you might want to take. And I'll show you just a quick two overviews of the dashboard that we have for the wider open source community. The first one is this one is for Apache Maven. Those that know me know that I like to contribute to Apache Maven whenever I get a chance on evenings and weekends. And they just last week had a vote where they chose to pick Java 17 as the next major version, both for the source and the runtime level. And what I've built here is a dashboard that allows you to see where they stand in the adoption of Java 17. The vote passed just this week, but you can see that the vast majority of projects is still on Java 8. There's a very minor share which use Java 11 and just a few, it's just a single one on Java 17. And then a few of them are currently building using Java 21. But if you actually want to make an effort of doing some changes there, you can press this upgrade button. And that launches the recipe that we have to upgrade projects to Java 21. We did a video on Java 21 migrations, I think 2 weeks back, where you get all these changes then applied to your source code to actually bring those projects up to the Java language level. And we can do the same for some of the parent palms that they use throughout the project, and also give you insights into where things stand there with just a quick recipe view from this single landing page that we have for the organization. Now you'll notice we don't show any security related findings on this dashboard because we want to be friendly to our friends in the wider open source community by not advertising what security issues they might have. So while we have that data and we're able to show that to organizations, you won't find it on this public dashboard, just to be kind to folks there. Next up, we have another instance where it's slightly different. This time we're looking at the Dev Center for Spring. You can see that you have different numbers of lines of code and contributing developers and different goals that we're tracking. So in this case, we're tracking the upgrade to Spring Boot 3.2. You'll find that some of their projects still are not on the latest patch version of Spring Boot 3.2, whereas the vast majority of them are actually doing quite well. They're using the latest patch version available, and we might want to close that gap again by pressing that upgrade button. And this is a great way to start contributing back to those projects by getting these insights and using them to help inform your next move and create those PRs that help move them along. You can see that we're tracking some different visualizations here. We can give you insights into what languages are being used across the code base. For normal organizations, it may be interesting to see where SQL is used and which tables and rows are involved there. But it's a really great landing page for your organization. And we have one for every organization that we have within the dashboard here. Just this morning, I spoke with Steve, a friend of ours, on doing a special one for Jenkins CI, where we're tracking some migrations there. And it's really fun to see how you can automate changes once you have this public view of where you stand currently. So go check it out. We have the blog post to help you through. That's on blog.moderne.io, of moderne.io/blog. And from there, you can read all about this and our future plans with the Dev Center. So that's really fun. And next up, we have a video that we put out just this week on a feature I mentioned last week, which is it seems my streaming application crashed, so I'm back. I hope you are all back as well. I'm going to share my screen again. So also last week, I told you about the upcoming support for OpenRewrite in IntelliJ IDE, but I couldn't yet show you a demo last week because it's very much in early access preview and it didn't work at the time. But since last week, they have put out a blog on exactly how they've integrated OpenRewrite there. And I've just shared you the link so that you can have a look there as well. But what I'll try to do right now is I'm going to switch to my IntelliJ preview version and then show you exactly how you can now run recipes from IntelliJ. So for this demo, I've taken the well-known Spring Path Connect project, and that in that project, I've added a small rewrite YAML file that you might know from the root, in the root of the project. One thing you'll immediately notice is that there's now a logo associated with those YAML files because it recognizes that this is an OpenRewrite recipe. And the next thing to notice is that there's now a small play button where you can actually run custom recipes that you add to your project. And what I've added here is just a small recipe, which in this case, there's a replacement of the string utilities class with the Apache Commons Lang 3 string utilities class. And once we've run that, we want to maybe add a dependency if we find any usages of that string utils class, and then introduce a dependency on Commons Lang 3. So this works, and you can get some help in your IDE as well. So if you maybe forget to add a particular required property, you get some helpful hints to add that property still. So that's really neat, something that just wasn't there before, and we don't see in other editors as well. So it's really something that I look forward to using a lot of once it's out of preview. Now, of course, you could already do these types of compositions through our recipe builder in the Moderne platform, but it's nice to have it in your editor as well, where you probably spend most of your time. If we run this recipe, you'll see that it starts executing things in the background. By default, we find that it picks up Maven as the tool to run your recipes against, because in this case, the project has both a POM file and a build-gradle file. And after it's done running, it will update your source files, and you'll see that we've had 3 files changed. So one of them, we find that we indeed now get the Commons Lang 3 dependency added to the project. And in 2 of these classes, you can see that we have gained the required import for Commons Lang 3, and we moved the import for the string utilities class. And we see the same again in a different class as well. So really neat stuff to have this in the root of your project, and should really make it easy to do more of such migrations very easily from your IDE. And now, of course, this is a great way to build up your recipes and see that they work. But if you want to run them at scale, we advise to go to Moderne and run your recipes that way. Now, one last feature I haven't filmed you yet is that you also get completion here. So if I type best practices, you don't see my pop-up because it's a different window being captured, but you actually get completion to add any recipe that we maintain right here as a suggestion in your IDE when you type. So that is also really neat to see added here. So with that, I'm going to switch back to sharing a different screen. But just really looking forward to using that a lot in the near future. Now, 2 things that we've added ourselves to the OpenRewrite ecosystem last week, which are notable, is firstly support for JSPs, as you can find here. And that's landed in the new version of OpenRewrite that we just released yesterday, I believe, where you can now parse JSP files through our XML parser, and also visit any elements associated with that with a dedicated visitor. Now, this, of course, is very new, but what this then unlocks is to be able to update such JSP files in this way as well. So it's really convenient if you are working maybe with some older projects that you want to modernize, but you want to have that support of a type system and predictable recipes to make those changes. And one place where we're looking to use this is in a new module that we started last week, which is the rewrite struts module, which came out of a collaboration with a customer of ours, where you can help migrate applications from older versions of struts to the latest version. And we have an issue up here already, where you can see that some things have already been crossed off, and we hope to cross off new items pretty soon as well. I'll share that link in the chat as well, such that you can find it yourself. And then finally, a thing that I'm very excited about is that I'll be returning to Spring I/O this year, where we'll be hosting a session on using the fundamentals of OpenRewrite with generative AI, and you'll see that show up on the program pretty soon. So if you are near or planning to attend Spring IO, come find us there. We'll be there with a booth as well, such that you can learn all about both what we're doing now and what we are working towards, and how that ties into Moderne. So yes, really looking forward to this one too. And then that kind of concludes the updates that I had for this week in particular. And that brings us to the main topic for today, which is automating your migrations, automating your code reviews that you have. And for that, I'm going to share a different screen. Which is this one. Now, you probably know that at Moderne, we support the wider OpenRewrite community, and we do that in multiple ways. One of those is helping maintain the core OpenRewrite framework, which folks can use to automate their migrations. And another way is in helping review and distribute recipes contributed by the wider community. We're lucky enough to have a lot of community contributors contribute recipes to OpenRewrite. But that also means that we have a lot of potential work to do in reviewing all those contributions and getting them off and into the hands of our users. We often find that folks are maybe a first-time contributor when they come to the projects, trying to help automate a small thing that they need to be doing. Or such as in this particular case, you can find that we have friends of ours, in this case from IBM, developing recipes to help their users migrate as well. Now, this is really, it's fun to have such traction in the wider community, but it can be a lot of work to review each and every contribution. And it's maybe not as fun to point out items that are maybe silly small conventions that we have that you just see pop up repeatedly. And as an example, we have this particular pull request, and I'll share the link if you want to have a look, which is on the face of it a very good contribution already. It's a friend of ours. She's new to the project, but she's taken up a recipe development really well. But as always, when starting out on a new project, there's maybe some conventions that you don't know about yet. And some of them are nitpicky or small things, but they do really help us when those are applied consistently across all the projects, such that they all have the same look and feel. And what we've done then to stop me from having to point out such issues is to automate those reviews with these small suggestions that we post on the pull request automatically. You can see one suggestion here is that we don't want to have any system out print statements in a recipe development. This is a common pattern that we see as people are still refining their pull requests, but we don't want to be left over or having to point them out when it comes to a proper review of the pull request. So we post a quick suggestion for folks to remove that one. And you can see that this has already been applied just from having been pushed as a small comment here. The next one we have is a convention that we say that our test clauses are ideally not public. And we have a recipe that does exactly this. And we can post this automated suggestion here as well. And then finally, we have an example where we don't want our tests to start with the prefix test, which was necessary in JUnit 3 once upon a time, a decade ago. But it's a convention that has carried over since, and we just want to make sure that when you look at our project, you don't see that convention repeated anymore. And all three of these we've implemented as small recipes that are run when a pull request is opened, and then posted as a suggestion automatically. And that's because we want to be very welcoming to folks contributing to our projects, but we don't like to interrupt their flow as they work. So Where other tools or checks have maybe a habit of showing you a big red cross when you do something that is not within the agreed upon conventions, we want to be slightly more helpful, more welcoming by posting these really quick suggestions that folks can then apply with just a click of a button and have them fixed that way. And that is, I think, the ideal way of giving this feedback. It also means that when I get to see a pull request, typically these issues that can be automated have already been resolved. And it's just a gentle nudge in the right direction for folks new to the project that might not know some of the conventions that come into play here. So then, as you can see, these are just 3 suggestions, but we have a few more checks that we execute on every pull request, and I'll take you through some of those and how we go about adding new rules to this set of recipes that we enforce. So first up, there's this recipe that we have in the rewrite recommendations module, where it's just our collection of OpenRewrite best practices. And as you can see, it's just a regular composite recipe of decorative YAML recipes. And some of them are using existing recipes, such as the order imports recipe or removing a system-out println. And others are using recipes specific for testing, which we only run on a precondition that we find the rewrite test interface used within this project. And we've wrapped this up and made it available to run for folks using the rewrite recommendations module. And you can also run this one through our Moderne platform, where you can similarly drill down and find exactly what goes into these best conventions and run them from there. Now, I've already run this across all of our projects, but I also found some community recipe modules that have not had these best practices applied yet. And what we can do, maybe as a quick demonstration of how we go about introducing these rules and applying them at scale before starting to enforce them through pull requests checks, is to just run these against those community recipes that we've identified. And I'm going to run all of them. And you can see that quite quickly we have some results for rewrite modules from, in this case, Quarkus updates. There's some from our friends at the Broadcom as well, or Axon, or Morphia, Timeful. All of these are community contributed recipe modules, some of which have made it into the OpenRewrite third-party recipe module, where we bundle up these recipe modules such that they are usable through the Moderne platform as well. So if you want to run some of these recipes that you've seen, you can go here and pull them in through the regular method of getting your recipe modules, and be sure that they use matching versions of OpenRewrite when you run. So let's take you through some of these changes as applied to the Quarkus update project. And what you'll notice here is that indeed we are reordering the imports to fit the conventions that we used. In this case, we also have the convention of not calling a super equals and hash code methods on our recipes, because there's no sensible implementation in rewrite that needs that particular call up. And further down, you see more imports being added, and it's a lot of small and larger changes, such as renaming a variable here to fit in with our conventions. And altogether, we get a lot of small changes applied that I don't have to point out on a pull request anymore. We're using static import for the random ID rather than a UUID. It's a lot of small improvements to the overall project health. And of course, we have the platform, and we can open up a pull request quite quickly for our friends at Quarkus to then pick up these OpenRewrite best practices, such that next time around they don't have any of these issues anymore. And I've done this over the past couple of weeks to apply all these changes to all our OpenRewrite modules already, such that we can now be sure that there are no such issues in our projects. When we do a run, you'll find 0 hits. So when we do a run on a pull request, any hits that we find are valid suggestions only for those pull requests. And then you can see that when we go to the projects themselves, in how we actually run those recipes. So in this case, you can looking at the rewrite migrate Java project, and you'll find that we have one workflow specifically to receive new pull requests. So anytime a pull request is opened or synchronized, we actually run this workflow, and it is safe to do so. In this case, calling out to a workflow that we have defined at our shared GitHub automation repository. You can find the details there. And what this actually does is run that recipe for you. It takes a couple of inputs. Most of them are optional. By default, we run the OpenRewrite best practices recipe. We don't give it any explicit rewrite YAML because our recipe is in rewrite recommendations. But we could do so as well if you want to maybe customize the recipes that are run for a particular project. And then next up, we have an init-gradle file, because all of our repositories are Gradle repositories, which are best run with those recipes using this init-gradle file. So these three come together, the recipe, any rewrite YAML, and the init-gradle file, to then run a workflow, which does some minor setup to capture the pull request number for the pull request where we want to place our comments. We also need to run our recipes, which we do right here, by first writing out that rewrite YAML and that rewrite init-gradle. And then, like we would normally run our rewrite run recipe with the argument recipe that we want, and capture any changes that have been made through git diff. This file is then uploaded to GitHub Actions through a standard action there. And from there, it can be picked up in the next workflow, which I'll take you through. And I'll explain to you as well why there is a split between running this one on the immediate code and then have a second one which does the comments. So this is that second workflow that we run. It runs right after the receive PR has run. And what it then does is it invokes our comment PR workflow, again, from our shared project. If we go to that one, you can see that this one takes the pull request number that has been uploaded previously, and we take the patch file that has been uploaded previously, and we run a automation developed by the folks at Google from the code suggestion, which takes that patch file and turns any differences that it finds into comments on the pull request. And this is really the smarts of this operation, where you just then end up with running recipes on a clean repository, which make changes, which can only affect those pull request files, and then post those changes as suggestions on the pull request to once again end up with these helpful guidances on your pull request to help prevent any such new issues. Now, I've shown you this for our setup, which is a very homogeneous Gradle project setup. But we also have an example for you if you want to do this for a Maven project. I'll Somehow, every time I try to share a link, I'm being thrown out. I hope you caught most of what I've been saying. And I'll try once more to share a link. So like I said, we also have an example here for Maven, where we have added this similar workflows to the LangChain4j project, where you can run recipes and make sure that you get those comments applied to those new pull requests as they come in. I've added some comments here to explain what I'm doing, and we'll also be doing a write-up to have a reference for you to go through after this. Because one of the things that is quite important when you do this type of work is that you do so in a secure manner. We, of course, run open source repositories that we are running automations on in GitHub Actions. But we want to be sure that when we do so, that we don't open ourselves up to folks that want to maybe mine some Bitcoins or do some nefarious things with the tokens that are necessary to place those comments on those PRs. And to that end, the folks at GitHub Security have written up a very thorough blog post in 3 parts that I've gone through with a workflow that is now safe to run for us on these projects, such that you don't have to do so as well. And I've added links to this blog post within the workflow files that I've added to our project, such that you know exactly when and where to not use any secrets or not run any untrusted code. So that should help you if you want to do something similar for your project. But both of these have so far been targeted on very homogeneous setups. If you want to do something similar for your case, but you don't have such a homogeneous setup, you are maybe using multiple different build tools or even languages, then we recommend that you use the Moderne CLI to do this same work. I'll include this in my write-up, but this does require a token and that you sync your recipes that you want to run here. But beyond that, you don't have to tell the automation anymore what version of Java you need to run. You don't have to tell it if you're using Maven or Gradle. You don't even have to tell it if you're using neither Maven nor Gradle nor Java. It will all just work and be able to run recipes that you push in as arguments in such a way that you're able to automate this at scale and get those benefits of no longer getting the known issues pop up after you've already cleaned up your pull request. So that's a really helpful tool as well to have. And I'll share again a link and hope that this doesn't drop me from the stream. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you in how we find items that we want to automate in our pull requests, how we then use the platform to automate such changes at scale, to clean up all our repositories, before we then start to automate that enforcement gently with comments on pull requests through the receive and common pull request flows that we have here on GitHub. I hope that is helpful to you in your use cases as well. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this topic for today. Now, we'll do another episode next week, but it'll for once be on a Tuesday, because I'm out on Wednesday. But we'll be looking at Refaster style recipes with a good friend of mine, Rick Ossendrijver from Picnic, who has developed a lot of Refaster rules that they use internally to help achieve a consistent code base on at Picnic. And we have taken those same rules and turned them into recipes that you can now apply for your projects as well. So I hope that that's going to be helpful for you to look at next week. And I hope to see you all there. Thanks.